After World War II, Americans rejoiced in the new age of prosperity. The nuclear family could find security in the new and flourishing middle class. White picket fences protected manicured lawns. Housewives embraced femininity while husbands worked their 9-to-5 jobs. However, the economic growth and peace of America's 1950s was coupled with potent violence and fear that permeated the culture. With the threat of nuclear war, espionage, and communism hanging over Americans' heads, literature arose to represent one fear of the time. Artists such as Shirley Jackson, Allen Ginsberg, and Arthur Miller expressed a fear that people would no longer create their own ideas and that they would conform to harmful but widely held practices. This mob mentality could consume reason and logic. The fear of mob mentality causes many Americans to succumb to popular opinion and conform to mainstream ideals, despite how harmful the practices might be. Many artists throughout the Red Scare defied the accepted norm by maintaining values integral to the American identity, freedom and individuality, which should motivate today's citizens to react similarly to the face of modern mob mentality, cancel culture. From the late 1940s to throughout the 1950s, communism presented a threat to the American way of life. It represented everything the United States was against. When Joseph McCarthy declared he had a list of communists working in the government, he threw the media into a frenzy and the public along with it. The second Red Scare had begun. People with leftist ideologies or other factors such as magazine subscriptions or alleged associations were accused of allying with the Communist Party. When accused, people would try to salvage their reputation by accusing someone else. Arthur Miller found this wave of McCarthyism reminiscent of the Salem witch trials. In his play, The Crucible, John Proctor becomes overwhelmed with accusations of witchcraft and chooses to die an honest man rather than live a lie. These accusations were the result of jealousy and an attempt to ruin his life. In addition, Mary Warren fears what would happen to her if she continued to contradict what Abigail Williams and the other girls were saying, so she eventually joined their schemes, pretending they were being attacked by witchcraft or the devil, although she knew the Proctors were innocent. Mary Warren is an example of how the fear of mob mentality shaped her behavior and caused her to join the majority instead. The town bended their will to young girls' accusations until it boiled into mass hysteria, executions, and complete conformity to paranoid and malevolent behaviors. Shirley Jackson contributed to vocalizing this fear in her short story, The Lottery. A rural town gathers one summer morning to partake in a cultural ritual involving pulling names from a black box. A man comments that the next village over is talking of giving up the lottery, to which the oldest man in town scoffs and calls them a pack of crazy fools. He believes that next thing you know, they'll citizens of other towns be wanting to go back to living in caves. Used to be a saying about lottery in June, corn be heavy soon. When the lottery is revealed to be a ritual sacrifice, where the winner is stoned by their neighbors, friends, and family, the audience fully comprehends Jackson's message. There is a relevant resistance to this tradition, but the town disregards this. They believe without the lottery, the crops will not grow abundantly. Jackson exposes the dangers in an appeal to tradition purely for the sake of upholding that which has stood the test of time and mob mentality. Allen Ginsberg takes a more direct approach in his eccentric stream of consciousness poem, America. He names communists, Trotskyites, and socialist people and organizations to advocate for their safety. His prose is short, leaving the audience to wonder whether he is begging or demanding that America free Tom Mooney, or that America save the Spanish loyalists. He satirizes American fears of the Russians and refuses to apologize for attending Communist Party meetings as a child. Ginsberg's work may at times seem like the ramblings of a madman, but can be interpreted as a commentary on McCarthyism and the hysteria it causes when American citizens refuse to come to their own conclusions. While many decades have gone by, mob mentality is still present today. The tendency for an individual to adopt the attitudes and opinions of the majority has shaped into cancel culture. In cancel culture, people collectively shun individuals, especially on social media. Cancel culture causes people to fear possible backlash if they stray from the norm. In 2020, Tao Cruz described his experience with this mob mentality in the form of cancel culture. Once a singer who rose to fame in the 2000s, he joined TikTok after a break from the music industry. However, he was often targeted with hateful comments by many people. Eventually, Cruz left TikTok. Users within the comment section of his videos falsely accused him of things he did not do. Cruz described his experience as a snowball effect, or that there was a mob mentality that happened in comment sections after someone decided to be toxic, and a bunch of other people decided, oh, I'm gonna join in on that. He understood this experience as a result of when people look at the comments to give them the answer of how they should feel about it, or how they should behave. If they try to defend the person subject to cancel culture like Cruz, they will look like they are aligning with that individual. As a result, they will be attacked by people as well. In fact, about 40% of Americans today report keeping quiet, holding back from expressing their true beliefs for fear of reprisal. They become afraid of cancel culture and mob mentality, so they participate in it instead, just like Mary Warren. The United States has built itself upon principles such as freedom and individuality. History shows that many Americans have turned to conformity rather than making independent decisions within times of fear or public pressure. The fear of mob mentality and conformity has significantly rooted itself within the American identity throughout history. These would include the Salem witch trials, McCarthyism, and forms of cancel culture. This questions whether Americans really accept individualism. At the same time, the American identity is forged by those who refuse to give in to such conformities. Characters like John Proctor in The Crucible and writers like Shirley Jackson and Allen Ginsberg have shown that the true American identity is not about blending in with the community around, but standing firm in one's own beliefs despite the social consequences that may arise. Although the overall American culture speaks toward independence and equality, it punishes people who do not follow mainstream ideologies. Many Americans refuse to openly express their beliefs and values because of the threat of judgment or retribution. The tension between free thinking and his fear of being left out has continued to mark the American identity, showing that individuality versus conformity remains an outlining issue in the shaping of a national identity. The fear of mob mentality and conformity has deeply influenced the American identity throughout history. This fear has shaped Americans' reactions and behaviors, causing them to be afraid to go against the majority of people's opinions and actions. Whether in literature, politics, or social interactions, the desire to belong often outweighs the pursuit of independent thought and action. Even today, the fear of mob mentality has influenced how people behave on modern platforms, such as social media, forming cancel culture. While the nation was founded with ideals such as freedom and individuality, the fear of being excluded or oppressed continues to encourage conformity. Yet throughout American history, there has been Americans who resisted this pressure, like writers such as Ginsberg and Jackson, who have redefined what it truly means to be an American. Their courage to stand firm in their own beliefs, despite the social persecution that may arise, is what ultimately refines the American identity. Reflecting on the impact mob mentality has on individual thought, Americans can carefully consider whether the common opinions of others should be followed or dismissed. Americans can work towards a society that does not value conformity, but encourages people to think and act independently.